Welcome to Rabbit Holes with Aaron, where we talk about all kinds of interesting topics. Today I have with me Mark from Florida,
Hey everybody, how's it going?
and
Glad to be
I
here.
am, thank you, and I'm Aaron Evans from Texas, but I'm in Wyoming today. And we're going to start off Rabbit Holes with our very first rabbit hole of this session, and that is the Good Samaritan. And so you requested this topic, Mark. What do you want to talk about with the Good Samaritan?
Well, when I woke up this morning, I had thought about like the previous day where I had a conversation with my girlfriend, and it was about, taking care of myself. And and the thing about that was that I give so much to other people, and it just had me thinking about the Good Samaritan, and how he stopped where other people are like walking by and not doing anything. The Good Samaritan stops in and he bandages him up. He takes care of him, and it just, to me, it's like, you know, that if you have the ability to help somebody, or if I have the ability to help somebody, I absolutely have to. And it just, sometimes it doesn't surprise me anymore, but at times it used to surprise me that just some people would rather not get involved. And
Yeah,
how people don't really understand, like somebody like myself who just has to do something, and
right.
and then they say, well, you need to take care of yourself, and you can't pour from an empty cup. And I'm like, well, my cup seems to always be full, but at the same time, I do know that I have to take care of myself. So it just had me thinking about that parable this morning.
Well, let's talk about the Good Samaritan. So there's a lot of levels to it, to that story that Jesus tells in the Bible, where somebody's beat up and mugged or whatever, in modern terms at least, and they're left on the side of the road dead. And if my memory serves me correctly, like a priest comes along, walks right by on the other side of the road, and pretty much everybody, a few different people, come along and walk around on the other side of the road. And then this one guy who is a Samaritan, which it's kind of taken a really good feeling like, oh, the Good Samaritan. A Samaritan is a good person, and they're special. And man, I want to be a Good Samaritan. But back then in the ancient, in the Jewish time period we're talking about, a Samaritan was hated by the Jews. A Samaritan was just, was another ethnicity or race that the Jews actually saw as a lesser life form. Because the Samaritans were kind of, when the Israelites were taken into captivity, there was a few poor people left behind, and they got together with the other pagan cultures around them, and they intermarried and had kids. And so these are kind of like a fraction Israeli, but mostly the other people and the other tribes which Israel warred with around them. And so they see them as a lesser life form. So another level of this story is that the most undesirable and hated race comes along and does the right thing. Which, if you can imagine, talking to the Jews, he's talking to mostly all Jews, and so he's telling his story, and he's like, so, this is a guy that was beset by robbers, and all the correct people that you guys admire and look up to did nothing. And the people that you hate did something. So that's kind of a lot of levels going on if you understand the context of the time for that story. And the clear message is, which is just would make the Jews roll over in their graves or their skin crawl, is be like a Samaritan. You
Yeah.
know? Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, and the message I get from that also is like, we're all people. Like, we're not
Yeah.
Samaritans, we're not Jews. I mean, we are, but at the end of the day, we all bleed the same blood. And one of the things about the Marine Corps that taught me, just, I mean, if there's one color in the Marine Corps, and that color is green, and that's how we all are. And there's
Yeah.
not a single person that would not give their life for the other person, regardless of race or color or anything. So I think, that's what it reads to me, is that we're all the same. We're all people, and we should just stop with the
Yeah.
petty, Christian, Catholic, Jew, this, that, and just let's all just come together and like I know the old. Why can't we all just get along? Hey, I tell you, sometimes the what are those things that you say? They just become so overplayed. Like, what would Jesus do? What all those, and it's
Yeah,
like
cliches.
they're cliches. Yeah, the reason they're cliches is because they're so true. They stand the test of time. People are tired of hearing them, but not me. Like, yeah,
Yeah,
what I do that every morning. What would Jesus do? Every decision I make is prefaced with, what would Jesus do? And, sometimes I'm like, he wouldn't have done that, but
yeah,
yeah, I didn't do that one right. But anyways, here we go, rabbit hole time. So
yeah.
yeah, we got to come up with a thing or something like that when we start heading down a rabbit hole.
Rabbit hole number
Yeah, there we
7,599 or
go.
something.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
like a
and
mile
it's
marker.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Because I think I can count seven right now. I think we're at. I think we've already hit seven, well, five, at least five, I think, rabbit holes so far.
Well, and there's some genius in, going back to the story, and genius in Jesus telling the story. Like the people he's telling it to don't even know what to do about it. It's like, here's an atomic bomb. No, just stand here and hold it. And they're like, probably some of them are like, what the heck is he even talking about? Don't even mention Samaritans in a sentence to me, because they're so hated and they're so separate and they're seen as a lesser life form. And he's really telling a lot of good elements of storytelling here. And there's this idea, I think, that Jesus likes to talk about or at least express in a lot of different ways, and that is be too good. So in this story, he's telling you about how to be too good, but then he throws the curveball and makes it, you know, perceived the worst people ever are doing the too good thing. And
Yeah.
so it kind of balances out for the sake of the story. But, if we're going along saving every single person is beat up or hurt or downtrodden, you know, when do we have time to eat and drink water and sleep? Because there's just too many. But that takes us to the starfish story, and
Hmm.
which we probably have to hit and just stay with because it's so powerful. And I'll let you tell that in a second. But it's so interesting that's another rabbit hole topic for another time, perhaps, is don't throw things at pigs, right? Don't throw the pearls before the swine, pretty much. And in that, I think he's also expressing, don't be too good. And don't be too loud about being too good because they will take you out. And it's like, he's saving our lives by saying, okay, you can be really, really good, just don't let anybody know. Just kind of, if you can keep it a secret, remain anonymous, and you can just do unlimited good for as many people as you want, and nobody sees you as a threat, nobody's jealous, people aren't trying to take you out for it, and somebody listening might be scratching their head. Nobody takes anybody out for being too good.
Yeah.
I mean, the list is long, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Bob Marley, Malcolm X, and I don't even mean to stay in that particular race or anything, but it's like John F. Kennedy,
Yeah.
the history, American history is littered with people that are just too good, and it's like, take them out. We don't even know who takes them out.
Yeah.
But anyway, what do
Yeah.
you
And
think?
yeah, well, I agree with that. And then also, there's on the flip side of the coin is the doing it anonymously. How many people, how many people really will and can do something really, really good and then not even say anything about it? How many of us are, I did that? Or how did this get done? Oh my gosh. Like even Santa Claus tried to sneak down chimneys and put toys in people's, and they figured him out too. So, I mean, like, yeah, no, nothing. Jesus, a very good, point is what, the things that he did. And okay, let's talk about who taking him out. They took him, like, that's the epitome of taking somebody out for being too good. So,
Right.
I mean, but and that's I've got that story right now that I could tell you about of myself, even doing good. It brings such a great deal of power, or it can, that when you're doing good, people are
Yeah.
going to see it, and then when they see it, they're going to, then you're going to start getting some notice, and then you're going to start being the center of attention, because you just and then it's going to get to the power, then your ego gets involved, then it turns into something just completely not what you intended it to be. And now you're
Right.
power hungry. Now you don't share responsibilities because you want all the credit. And that was my downfall when I, helping house homeless veterans in California. And it was a real good, understanding of why it's important to, be humble. And I still
Mm.
struggle with it because it's something because I have a problem with being humble, but knowing the right thing to do, and the balance in between those things of trying to implement it in a community.
Right.
The struggle is real, as they say. It's because you've got people on both sides, and so being anonymous while doing good things, it's very difficult, but it's very important because you can't let that ego get in the way to saving lives. And let's not make no mistake, that's what we're doing, is saving lives. People are dying every day
Right.
because of for things that we could fix as quickly as possible, and we're not doing it. But that's another story for
Right.
another time too. So,
Right.
but that's the thing is and this is the last point I wanted to make, because this was, I think, I just realized this, and I do that a lot, where I just realized it's like, when you're talking to somebody about like another race, so when you bring up the Good Samaritans, like, and the way that the Samaritans were thought about, it's like when I'm talking to somebody who's a racist, because they come across and basically say that they are, and they're saying this and they're saying that, and I'm looking at them, and I should be appalled by what they're saying, but my love for that person too is involved. So it's like, how can you, because I love, when you love everybody, when you want to see everybody do good, even the people that are talking bad about other people, I want them to wake up and see that it doesn't have to be that way. So I love them too. So talk about a struggle, it
Yeah.
really is. And it's tough to see people that are in those situations. The people that walked by the gentleman, I mean,
Yeah.
priests walked by this guy and didn't do anything.
Yeah.
And that brings us to another thing in the Bible where, you don't stand in the front or whatever. And I'm not the greatest, and I probably shouldn't even bring it up, but I do bring it up because you are way a lot more familiar with these things than I am, and
Right.
could probably talk more about it. But yeah, it's just, yeah, I could go on for hours, days,
Okay.
weeks.
Yeah. But I want to pull something out of what you just said. You were talking about
Yes.
don't stand in front or whatever. And we're sticking with the rabbit trail for at least for a minute of
Yeah.
remaining anonymous, and where does he say that? And that doesn't make sense. And I definitely don't see that in the modern church, whatever denomination or Protestant or Catholic, like that can't be true, right? And it's like he talks about when you are invited to a party, sit in the lowest place. And then, if they really like you at the party, then the host can come over to you and say, hey, come sit over here by me, but for the start, you come in, you sit at the lowest place. And where is the lowest place in the context of that time period? The lowest place is sitting at the table with the servants. So you come in, you hang out with the housekeepers and the janitors and the cooks and the cleaners, and the host of the party comes looking like, I know I invited Mark to this party. Where is he at? And he finds you over there with the servants, and you're having a great time, right? Because they're real people, you know? And he's like, hey, come over here, sit by us. We want some of this fun too, kind of thing. And so he's kind of saying, start off with trying to be anonymous. And if every once in a while you get recognized, you know, then, hang out with those people too a little bit and share some love and plant some seeds over there. But don't start out like sitting like, okay, where's the best spot in the whole place? I'm going to sit right here by the host, by the person that owns this compound and has invited us all over for this wedding or feast or whatever. I'm going to sit right by him because that's where the power is, as opposed to, you know what? This is where it's real over here with the servants. I'm gonna hang out over here with them. If somebody makes me come hang out with the uppity up people, I can hang out with them too. But that's not my favorite crowd, number one, or that's another way of looking at it. And then, the real way is try as hard as you can to be a nobody because your options are unlimited at that point. And you don't really have a long way to fall either if, you make a decision, a bad decision or something else. It's like Icarus, flying too high close to the sun and his wings, which are connected to his body via wax, it melts and he falls to the ground like from the sky. I mean, terminal velocity, you don't recover. You might recover, but you probably won't recover from such a fall. And so it's like, let's not let's not try to be the biggest and best. Let's just try and be cool and fun to hang out with. And that goes to his, hey, where's all the time people are coming to look for him. Where's Jesus? Have you seen him? And his disciples are like, I don't know. And oh, wait a minute, he's over there at the bar with the tax collectors and sinners. I was wondering what was going on over there. It's just it sounds like a lot of fun happening in there. Like people are laughing and joking and yelling and like they're like, "Hey Jesus, hey, come hang out with us." And he's like, "Yeah, this is where I'm going. This is where I'm at." Now, a very important point to bring out of that is he didn't go there to party and have a good time and like he's, snorting coke and, you know, knocking back the beers. I imagine he was in moderation if he even had anything, but they just wanted to hang out with him. Because you know how it is. I mean, most people know how it is. You go into a bar, nobody wants to hang out with you. I mean, I'm a strange person in a Wyoming bar or whatever. I'm from Texas. Nobody's going to come over and say, "Hey, brother, how's it going?" But that's how it was with Jesus. They're like, "Man, this guy's cool. If you can invite him to hang out with us, do it," right? And there's talking to the disciples. But when the rulers come around and say, "Hey, where's Jesus?" when they invite him to our party, he's like, "I don't know where he is. I think he's in the wilderness somewhere." You know, Jesus sees them coming. He's like, "I don't want to go to that party." He's kind of doing whatever he does. Of course, that's my speculation. That's not, scriptural exactly. But yeah, so that kind of pushes the point forward of trying to remain anonymous. You can help as many homeless people as you want if you're just a single person taking them food. Nobody's going to care. Just don't let the religious people catch you doing that, okay? Just because if they do, then they'll have an all you can eat buffet for a week and, feel better and go on. Perhaps that's my speculation too. And nothing against religious people. There's so many good people out there.
Yeah,
I guess
absolutely.
maybe a better term would be more legalistic, probably better than religion. So I correct myself there. But what do you think about that? What other rabbit holes did you find there?
There's a couple for sure, probably even more that we'll find along the way. I think that, credibility is a word that comes to mind when you talk about staying humble and coming from sitting at the foot of the because you're not coming in there, you can still speak with authority, and knowledge and not have to be the person that's in authority. There's a
Yeah.
saying that's like leadership, you don't have to be a leader to lead people. You don't have to be. You just it's in you or it's not. And if you walk somewhere and you walk into a room, there's just something about people that when they speak with authority, they walk with authority, you can just sense it. And you don't have to be the CEO for that to happen. You can be, the outreach specialist. The lowest guy on the totem pole walks into a meeting and everybody's like, oh, what is this guy going to say? As long as you just the thing is that you start off there and then people can either utilize that as a springboard for good or manipulation because you can also manipulate people by being that person. Oh,
Yeah.
he sits over here with this and that's your way to get in and then you move on up the chain. And I think that even without realizing it, that's what I did is that I
Hmm.
started off there and I wanted to be, just humble and I was fine with if the servants, if you will. And but then the people with authority started being like, oh, well, this guy has knowledge and let's bring him to our table because he's gonna make us look better. And then I was all happy
Right.
about that. I was like, oh hey, yeah, let's go. And then I go there and I'm like, yeah, I don't want to ever sit at that other table again. But now I realize that was the table that got me to where I was at
Right.
and now I'm in another place trying to do the same thing, trying to sit at the high table, and the people at the high table are going, "Who is this guy?" And that reminds me, okay, well, guess what? You need to go over there and you need to talk with these
Right.
people and build it from that point. and then stay humble this time. Don't go to that table. Stay away from that table. Only go to that table as a means to be able to help the other people that are sitting at the
Right.
other table.
Like as an advocate, kind of.
Advocate, absolutely. And that's, part of my, a nonprofit is that I advocate, because there's just so many people that are out there helping people, and they're just doing it for the grants. They're just doing it for the money that they can pay their. And I hate that. I hate that it's true. I really wish it wasn't, but I know that it is because I've been at that table, and and once there's a rabbit hole that we could probably stick on for an entire segment, because that is just really a difficult, and it's very structured and it's very powerful, and it goes all the way to the top, and it's just, but that's where you got to start at that table, and don't, I got to start back at that table and not lose sight of what's important and who I'm doing this for. So
Right.
yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
Well, thank you for sharing that, a little bit about your business and a little bit about how you've seen this kind of anonymity. I was going to say animosity. No, that wouldn't fit. This anonymity and how you see it fits into the way that your life has worked and the way your kind of nonprofit has worked. And I think about the anonymity of that Jesus was talking about. It's kind of protective too. It gives you protection. Well, oh, here's the point I was going to make. I was kind of wondering there for a second because I had this point about how, well, I lost it again. I guess I'll have to kick that out of the segment. But yeah, so anonymity and how Jesus said not to make rules from it. That's what I was going to say. So it's important that it's more like Jesus is giving kind of guidelines in this area that are protective that he uses to be around for 3 years, which is just crazy, especially since almost as soon as he starts, he keeps telling you they go out and plot to start to kill him. Or they just try to push him off a mountainside. Or they just, and they pick up stones or whatever. There's so many stories. And he just like walks right out. But, that he survived for 3 years of ministry. I mean, obviously 33 years total, but 3 years of giving his life to speaking truth and helping people and setting people free. And so he got away with it, wildly and massively popular for 3 years. And it was only ended because he finally came out and confronted the religious people straight on. And then they were like, okay, well, we talked about it before, but we're really serious now. And it was like something he did to kind of lead to him being able to even give up his life. But the important point I wanted to make here was it's important that we don't start making new rules, right? Like, okay, so I am at a party. Let me check my rule checklist. Oh, okay, sit with the servants. Okay. And now, because if we're just going by the rules or we're making new rules, that's really not what it's about at all. It's really about, well, as I said before, sitting with the servants, like just enjoying the fact that they're down to earth. They're people and enjoying the fact that we're really all there. We have these illusions of grandeur and these illusions of I'm rich and I'm powerful and all this stuff, but really we're all human. And I don't care how rich you are, how powerful, or what your parents were like. You've we were all given this, priceless piece of equipment, you know, our body, right? It's like you got a body too. Like we're all equally, gifted with a body. The eyes work. It's not like electronics. Like I did my first podcast here and my camera cut out and didn't come back. And it was like,
Every night, thousands of men, women, and children face the harsh reality of homelessness. But at the M&M Foundation, we believe no one should have to navigate life without a place to call home. Since our founding, we've been dedicated to helping those in need through three key areas: homeless prevention, addressing homelessness directly, and fostering community development. Whether it's providing immediate relief, connecting families with housing resources, or developing programs to break the cycle of homelessness, M&M Foundation is here to make a difference. But none of this is possible without your help. Your generosity fuels our mission and changes lives. Every donation, no matter the size, helps us provide shelter, meals, and hope to those who need it most. Join us in creating a future where everyone has a safe place to call home. Together, we can build a stronger communities and transform lives. Please call us at 727 275 3252.
Okay, yeah, it says it's supposed to work, and yeah, you paid a lot of money for it, but it's electronic. But guess what? My eyes haven't stopped working. My hands haven't stopped working. I mean, I'm 50 years old and everything's still working pretty good. My skin, looking different, and I'm aging. I got some gray in my beard here, but overall, like, we don't have a piece of equipment that we can say, oh yeah, we might get 100 years out of this Bluetooth headset. No, just plan on in 5 years you need another one or maybe three, and it's not going to work quite right all the time and da 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 da. But we're all given this priceless equipment. Hello, and our special guest speaker is. Are you going to introduce your friend to us?
Yeah, this is Maggie. She's my baby. She is a rescue, and she was given to me a family that was moving into an apartment complex that I helped them get into. Their breed restrictions, so she's a pit bull, so they would not let her in there. So I said I'd foster her,
Okay.
and so I did, and then I fell in love with her, and she won my heart. And now she's mine, or she's mine and my girlfriend's, Amy, our dog now. She's all legit. She's good to go. Her immigration paperwork is set. So, she's legal. So, and she's just, look at, I mean, I don't know, you can't really see her too well, but she's just absolutely a piece of work. And she's
Yeah.
totally playing on my heartstrings right now. She won't let me okay, come on. Gotta get
Yeah,
back to her.
I can definitely see the love there.
Yeah, she's absolutely
And
just
I'm
incredible.
sorry for the sake of those that are just listening to this podcast, we haven't released any videos, but yeah, he just had his dog up on his lap, and I could see the look of love in his face and the dog's face, and they're fast friends. And so yeah, just another service you've been providing, right? It's like, hey, let's get you off the street, get your family into an apartment. And, hey, the dog can't go. Well, you know what? I don't have a dog. Let's try this out, and you at
Yeah.
least give it a try. And there's a lot of courage there in every step of that process. But yeah, so don't make, I guess, going back to my point, don't make rules about all this stuff. Just do it and flow with it and enjoy it, right? And I say that because, I was raised conservative, right wing all the way. Not politically necessarily, but, like religiously. And so, it's like Paul said, he's a Pharisee of Pharisees. Man, I was raised in Independent Baptist Church. So there's a long list of things you don't do, rules, and a short list of things you have to do, rules. And, and somewhere in the middle, you just feel empty, lonely, and wanting a real relationship, right? And it's like, and eventually, you learn how to make real relationships. And it's not by following the rules. I mean, if you don't believe that, have a significant other, a relationship, especially with a woman, as I'm a guy, and Mark is also a guy, and he's got a girlfriend, as he shared. And it's like, yeah, get them flowers. And when they ask, oh, why'd you get these? Say, because it's Monday and I get you flowers on Monday. See how many points that gets you.
Right.
As opposed to, you know what? I was out doing stuff. I thought about you when I saw these flowers and I picked them up for you. And like, oh, wow, thanks. If they're a flower person, some women aren't, some guys are, some guys aren't. But it's like, well, is it heartfelt and is it spontaneous and is it a representation of your love for me, or is it just Monday and you just get flowers on Monday? Which I can appreciate it. I can put them in a vase, put them on the table, but it doesn't mean as much to follow the rules as it does to just be guided by concern, consideration, and love for somebody else. So, and I think that's a main focus that Jesus is trying to get us to do. Like, I mean, if you don't believe it, look at how he summarized however many laws of the Old Testament into just love God and love your neighbors. Love the people, every other person on earth, love those and love God, and you're good to go. And it's like, wait a minute. And he gave things intentionally that can't be rules. And if you don't believe that you don't get love from rules, well, let's just look at America. You know, how are we doing on legislating morality? Well, we've got, I mean, at last count, I heard, and I'm not a lawyer, but I heard we have over 50,000 rules in America. And, I don't know how many, if it's a 10 or 20 volume set. I mean, you have to go to school special just to understand a fraction of those rules. And people are treating each other, like the guy who the Good Samaritans say, we're beating up on each other, we're assassinating their character, we're talking bad about them, we're listening to argue. And so apparently the rules haven't been working so good because people aren't being nice to each other. I mean, some people are. A lot of people are, okay? But not everybody, and you don't have to look far to see it. So, yeah, so you can't really legislate love or morality. You can try and make people behave. And even then, with every rule you make, there's 10 ways around it, So, and I'm not going to hit any big issues here, but you can apply it yourself in your brain. But yeah, it's like, it's all about, I guess, a not legislated love for other people. So anyway, I went down that rabbit hole far enough. Draw me back out to another rabbit hole, Mark. What do you got?
Okay. Well, I don't know if I'll draw to another one, but definitely I want to go back to, the whole sitting at the table. And I mean, you brought up a very good point about, not having a rule book, because that's manipulation. Okay, now you're
Hmm.
manipulating a way of doing things that should be because you do it because it's the right thing to do, as to you're doing it because you're trying to get something. And you're trying
Yeah.
to get to that table, and that shouldn't be the reason. You should be happy at the table you're at. There's a saying that says, like, be happy with the things that you have. And that's like, or true happiness is being content or happy with the things that you have, not the things that you want. And
Right.
and sometimes people get too wrapped up in the whole how do I get to that table, or I want to be at that table, and then they lose sight of how wonderful it is to be at the table that they're at. And that was me, and I definitely am not, I just, and then it's like the whole thing about gift giving. It's like doing it from the heart is so much better, because now you receive a gift with no expectation. Christmas, there's expectation. I mean, how many times have you heard stories, or maybe it's even happened in your lifetime, to somebody, you give them a gift and they're like, that's it? Like they
Right.
built this holiday into something so out of completely out of whack, and so now every time, February 14th comes around, it's like, oh boy, now what am I going to do?
Right.
How do I top last year? Or, and that's not the way it should be, so it's like you do it that way, and it's just always going to end up, because you never know. And that's why I don't, I say expectation breeds resentment, because it just, sometimes it's like, if you expect something and that person doesn't live up to your expect, so it's like, why even? No, I'm good. Just, you're a human being. I meet you where you're at. You do what you do, and if I wouldn't do it that way, guess what? I wouldn't do it that way. But you know what? I'm not mad at you for that. That's okay.
Right.
Like, you're gonna be all right. As long as you don't, come to my house and live in my house and do that stuff. And there
Right.
you go. Now there's expectation, but you just leave everything out there on the table, and it's like, whatever happens, happens. And I read a book. It's called, and I'm gonna chop this to death because it's my favorite book. I've read it a couple times, and I never remember the title because it's too long. But it's how to make friends and influence people.
There you go.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and the Carnegie, Dale Carnegie, I believe it is.
That
And
sounds right. Yeah.
yeah, but just an outstanding book. And the whole thing that I got, the one thing that sticks out to me throughout the entire book is he teaches you all these ways to manipulate people, right? But he never stops explaining that if you're doing it from the heart, it's not manipulation, it's being a good person. And
Right.
people like to be surrounded by good, I mean, like, people inherently, we want, we're compassionate, we want relationships. We're not meant to be isolated. At least that's my understanding of,
Right.
that. And so when you get somebody that comes around that genuinely is interested in how you're doing, it's like, hey, how you doing today? And they're, oh, I'm okay. And that's like, okay, that was what I expected. That was the extent of that conversation. But when it's like, hey, how you doing today? Man, I'm not doing too good. Oh, well, that's great. And then you're like, wait, what? Like that wasn't
Right.
what I was expecting. You're not following the script, you know? And now you
Right.
got me having to, I wasn't prepared for a follow-up, you know what I mean? So it's like, but
Yeah.
that's what I do. It's like, if somebody asks me, "Hey, how you doing?" I'll be like, "Yeah, I'm kind of, just to see what they're going to do." And you know the good people that are going to be there and be like, "Wait, they stop exactly what they're doing and they look at you and then they're like, 'What's up?' And like, 'Talk to
Yeah.
me.'" You're one of those people, and I can't, I would never do that to you because I know that you would actually genuinely stop in your tracks and say, "Okay, let's talk." And I'm
Yeah.
one of those people too. But you get that people are like, "Man, I'm really sorry about that. Sorry, I gotta go." I mean, I'd love to talk about it, but I got a thing,
Right.
and you're just like, "All right, no problem. Have a good day." And
Right.
so it's about intent. It's about, if you genuinely are a good person, then that book is going to help you become an even better person. Or if you're not a good person, that book is going to help you become a manipulative son of a gun that is going to, take people and, and so I guess it could be, good and bad, but luckily for me, I got the good out of it. So, and now
Well,
I'm just
and
trying to be better.
I like what you had to say, and I haven't read that book exactly from cover to cover, but I have read it a little bit. I think that's a really valid point of what are you going to use it for, but also there's so much information I have missed with people in my life. I mean, you grow up with aunts and uncles and cousins and you know, and at least me as a person, I'm so focused on moving forward that I forget that these people all have stories and they all have stuff going on, and there's all kinds of interesting stories there. And of course, it sounds like it's all about my perspective when I say that, but I realize, Dale Carnegie in that book is just a way to get to people's stories if they feel comfortable sharing them. You get a lot more information. And for me, I realized that because of my bride, Jill, like we'll go out and double date or something, and she'll ask the same kind of questions. How did you meet? When did you fall in love? When did you get married? What do you guys do for fun? And like, I know so much more about people. And why does that matter? It's because you work with bees too? Well, yeah, sure. I'd love to come over and look at your hives. Come look at my hives with me. You know, you have extra honey? Well, I'm out. By the way, these people over here want honey, or whatever. So let me connect you to them. And so really what you find when you start to get into people's stories, just like I've gotten your story, you've gotten into my story, you know, before we even started recording. And so we know each other a little bit. We get a familiarity. We can find a spot in their life and we can do life together. And as you said a minute ago, if Mark says a text of like things aren't going good today, well, guess what I'm doing? I'm like, let me get a spot to sit, maybe get a cigar on my side and give you a call. Like, what's going on? And, to some extent, another perspective is always so helpful. It's always so many more solutions, so many more potential solutions or ideas for brainstorming for, hey man, I got this problem. I went out to my car and it makes this sound, but it won't start. Well, you know what? I've replaced starters before. Try hitting it with a wrench, first. And if that doesn't work, and so, I mean, that's just a simple problem and a simple solution, but like also so powerfully because you just went from this car is broken. I guess I need a new one to just grab a wrench real quick and hit knock on the starter and it starts up and I get to work. Like, okay, so it's like anything another perspective can shed a lot of tremendous light on the darkest, most unsolvable problem. Look over here. There's a screw on this side. You're going to unscrew it and take it off and fix it and put it back. Until you know that, it's just broken and unusable. Keep moving, So it's so powerful. And so I guess I like that book and that you shared it from your perspective. But you're right, you can use that to help or you can use it to harm. And so if you're using it to harm, I guess it's not necessarily overt harm, but it's like you see people as staircases. Like I can walk up on what I know from you and then I can get to the next person and use them as a staircase like you said, to get to the table I want to get to, you know, and ignoring all the tables that I'm actually at and ignoring all the people I'm actually hanging out with because I want something better. And so, a little bit of that. I think that happens naturally as we move on our trail, but like to ambitiously pursue it at all costs is going to bring harm to yourself and to others eventually, Yeah. So anyway, yeah, that's
Yeah.
an interesting rabbit hole. Thank you for that
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, I've got more. So yeah.
I know. I know.
So
That's
but
why
yeah.
we're here, right? That's why you're here, and that's why I'm here
Yeah.
right
And
now.
the funny thing is that you and I have been talking about this over the, and I think that's important to note too, is that, yeah, we knew each other many years ago. What is it? Geez, now in 2000, or no, I'm sorry, 1993 or
Yep.
94 is when we met.
Yeah.
And for a short period of time, we're together in the Marine Corps. Didn't really hang out much, but we were in the same, same area, same space, and then disappeared. And through, you know, Facebook and God's will, we just one day you just happen to see me post something that and here we are, 20, almost 30 years later, and we're just planning on what we're going to do to save the world, and that's awesome.
Yeah.
And that's my ambition, and that's what I strive for. And I know, or I at least I feel as though maybe I won't accomplish that. Maybe I will, maybe it will happen, but why not? That's something that I always tell people that volunteer with me. It's like, oh, well, that's impossible. I'm like, why? Like, I get it. Like, it is pretty crazy, but why not
Yeah.
us? Why aren't we the people? Aaron, aren't you and I the two? Somebody's going to do it. Why can't it be us? Might as well try,
Well,
which,
I would
right,
say we are doing it.
right.
We are doing it. We have been doing it. We will keep doing it. And, we're not waiting to arrive. We're just, and I think that's the whole purpose of life is enjoying this moment on this day, on this journey. And we can be stolen away by what can happen in the future, what's going to happen and all the consequences for all the actions of my life, what's going to happen. Well, I better think it through. I better plan it out step by step. Or we're captive to our past. Well, I should have done that better. Man, I wish I hadn't done this. I wish I hadn't done that. And really, both of them could hold us captive. But when we enjoy and live this moment, I think that's called mindfulness, so to speak, and living in
Hmm.
the present, those things, you know, if we take care of the present moment, which by the way is the only moment we have control over, it takes care of the future and it takes care of the past. And so when you said, who knows, maybe we'll change the world, I'm like, we are changing the world. Like, and not even with this podcast, just by listening to people, talking to people, meeting needs we can responsibly, helping people to break themselves free from harmful stuff because we've both had harmful stuff that we chose and it didn't go well. And we're like, I can preach at you all day long about what not to do, or I can just come alongside you and say, hey, you want to hang out? Let's go play basketball. Let's go for a walk, or something, that's going to bring health into their life and bring thought. And movement is always good.
Right.
And that's my 17,000 rabbit holes in 5 minutes. So go ahead,
Yeah.
pick one. Pick one.
Yeah, pick one. Wow. Yeah, it got me thinking about the one of my favorite, and you had mentioned it in the beginning, but like the Starfish story. And it's like, and that's so great that you bring that up, because when I sit there and say, why can't we save the world? Well, yeah, we are, but it's one person at a time. And you know what? I might not, to the person sitting out there listening, they might be like, well, you haven't helped me. And all I can say to that person is that eventually I will. But right now I've got this starfish that I'm throwing back in the ocean, And when I'm done with him, I'm going to keep going until I can't go. But for the time being, no, there's millions of starfish out there, and even the ones that I'm throwing back, it might not mean, it might not mean anything to the ones. Well, I'll just tell the story. How about that? That way, I don't have to try to,
There you
put
go.
it into a
I like it.
perspective of otherwise. And so the story is this: is there's a guy walking down the beach, and he sees this, and there's many interpretations of the story. If you go online and you look up the starfish story, you might come up with 30 different interpretations of it. But the one I always go with is there's a guy walking on the beach and he sees a kid, and there's millions of starfish strewn across the beach because the tide's been going out. So he comes up to this kid and he's throwing these starfish back, and he's like, "Hey, what do you got?" He looks like he's having a good time. He's like, "Hey, what are you doing?" He's like, "I'm throwing these starfish back in there so they don't die." And he's like, "Boy, don't you see there's millions of starfish?" He's like, "You're never gonna get," and I can't tell the story without getting just absolutely choked up because it's so powerful. And but he's like, "Do you see all these starfish?" He's like, "There's no way. The sun's out, the tide's out. There's no way you're gonna get to all these starfish. Like, why are you doing this? It's meaningless." And he's like, "Meaningless?" He's like, and he picks up a starfish, he looks at it, he's like, "To this one it means everything in the world," and he throws it back in. And it just tells a story that, yeah, just because it looks impossible doesn't mean that you don't strive for it, because
Right.
you might not save everybody, but you are saving people. And that goes to your point when I say we could save the world, is yes, we are, one person at a time,
Right.
as long as it takes, because each person is different. You meet them where they're at and you just do it, and you just keep doing it because it's the right thing to do. You can do it. I live off of like these sayings that me are so powerful to me. And another one is like, with great power comes great responsibility. I've been given wisdom, which that's another story that I get choked up when I think about. I thought I was the dumbest guy in the world, but then one day things just start clicking. And I mean, I probably what you could have been close to the dumbest guy in the world, but it was because I was so ignorant of things, and
Yeah.
so I didn't pay attention, and I just that eventually so I learned the hard way, and there's no better way to learn, I'm going to tell you that right now, than to learn the hard way. And by learning the hard way, things just stuck, because there's nothing better than some kind of punishment to keep that in your mind, that you don't ever want to experience that again. So
Right.
don't do that. So I'm the kid that burned his hand on the stove, even though I was
Right.
told it's hot, you're gonna get burned. I was like, yeah, okay, well, how that's hot. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
not gonna do that again. And so it's, yeah, it's just, and yeah, so God just gave me wisdom, not the way that I wanted it, but I got it, and now I'm using that as He planned, to be able to help people. And I think it's the greatest gift I've ever been given, and the way I got it, I wouldn't change it. Talk about regret. I am glad to say I don't have that problem, because
Yeah.
I'm in a place now that's so good that, and it even like nothing, like I'm not even in a good place, as most people would look at it and say, "You think that's great?" But I do, because I'm
Yeah.
very, very happy where I'm at right now. So, and
Yeah.
yeah, so it's, and that's another, once again, another one of my favorite, Ralph Waldo Emerson. His definition of success is, to basically, it's a long list of things. To gain the respect of your, of your rivals. I mean, like, how crazy is that to think about?
Mm.
If people that are against you, they're against you, they think that what you're doing is, they don't believe in that, or they're not, but they still respect you. How many people can say that? Not many.
Yeah.
And I don't
Yeah.
even know if I'm one, but
Yeah.
that's success to me. and
Yeah.
and then also, to have changed somebody's life for the better. If I do that before I die, that's success to me too.
Okay. Yeah, and I appreciate you sharing the definition of success and talking about and telling with us that sharing with us the starfish story. It's one of my personal favorites too. And the version I heard similar to what you heard, but the at the end the boy picks up one more starfish and he tosses in the ocean right in front of the guy. And he's like, made a difference for that one. You know, he's like, you'll never make a difference. And he
Yeah,
picks up one more starfish, looking at the guy, throws it in the ocean. It's like, I made a difference for that one.
exactly.
And the reality of it, Mark, is it's never just one. We think, well, I helped one person. In my mind, when you say that, okay, they were on a deserted island. They don't know anybody else. They don't have family. that they can contact, but that's not how people are at all. I mean, we're all connected in such a network. Like from birth, we're connected in a network. Whether the people own us or disown us or whatever the case may be, you at least can say without a doubt, I had a mother and father, right? And you can, maybe the father left or the mother left or, maybe it wasn't ideal. That's okay. You can say that and everybody understands. And also there's a planet that is wonderfully organized in such a way that it just continues to produce life, and all kinds of fun experiences and everything else. But one person is never just one person because, well, there's this really cool thing we do. We reproduce and we have little people that have our genetic material, kids and stuff like that. And so you got kids. You definitely got a mom and dad. You probably have brothers and sisters or uncles and aunts and cousins and all these people that like out of the box you're connected to. And so when you help one person, that help, if you help one person help themselves, I guess, so to speak, that idea and that setup continues. And then, and you can't do this with starfish where you pick up a starfish and that starfish comes back and starts throwing starfish too. But with humans, you can do that. With
Yeah.
humans, it's like I saved one person and now you look over and they're over there helping people too, and then they help somebody, and it's a multiplicative factor. It's exponentially. So one person is never just one person because we're all so connected. We got people at work. We got people, that we choose to marry where you join two families together. So you just double the amount of people you're affecting. And so on and on and on and on and on it goes. And, yeah, multiplicative. I need to practice saying that more.
Yeah, I
Actually,
didn't even know it was a word until right now. But I know it is because if there's anybody that I know that knows words, it's you. So I know I can use that word now.
wow,
So,
it's been a really good time. I think we got a fair number of rabbit holes, notches on our belt from this one podcast. And, and that's what I love about rabbit holes is they're inexhaustible. Like you go down one, you find 10 more. I'm always a little sad at the 9 I can't go down, even though I'm happy about the one I can, in the
yeah.
limited time. So yeah, so we got 1 minute left. Any closing thoughts or epiphanies for this last minute?
No, I mean, yeah, I'm going to have to come up with some kind of an ending thing because it's like, I think that, when you wrap something up, you should wrap it up with some kind of thought for the day or something to but I think we've kind of already done that. I mean, the time that we've spent has given me even reason to sit down and write some things out. And maybe one of these days, if I could stop forgetting things so fast, maybe I could write a book about something and try to do it that way. But just, I think that, trying to be good and, there's a thing that's called fake it till you make it. And by going through the criminal justice system, which, I can honestly say saved my life, I can say that fake it till you make it is a saying that doesn't mean what I thought it meant initially. And it's like this,
Right.
be a fake but if you be a fake and you fake something good for, a period of time or a length of time to become a habit, well, guess what? You're
Yeah.
not faking it anymore. So,
Right.
just if you're not good, fake it. And then eventually, it's a good possibility it might just stick and you might find yourself with the most fulfilled, wonderful life that you're living that you could have
Right.
ever expected.
Well, and I had something based on what we talked about as well. I like the fake it till you make it, and I like the fact that it's like to me, I say it like try it on first. Try it on
There
first.
you
Give
go.
it give it a test. Like it's like practicing being a better person. It's like, well, you got to practice a little bit. But the thing I got out of it is that I could tell everybody, I think with the relative, assurance that they would understand, and that is make a difference for one person today. Make a difference for one person. Don't, like Jordan Peterson says, and I love it when he says it. He's like, aim lower. If you've got all these good ideas and all these things to accomplish your goals, and it's too much and you just think about it and it gives you a headache, aim a little bit lower. like start with one step, and I think I would say that, like, make a difference for one person. Aim lower. It will change your life. So thank you today, Mark, for joining me. I look forward to having you again soon, and we
Anytime.
will conclude for now. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you for stopping by and checking out Rabbit Holes with Aaron. If you want more information, Rabbit Holes with Aaron is on Facebook, on Patreon. Check us out. Let us know what you think. Thanks.